So we got like over 30 minutes of just raw Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay on the Nintendo Switch 2. And with it, Digital Foundry did a little bit of digging. Now, I know a lot of you guys are already wanting to click off the video. Bear with me, because a lot of you guys are probably thinking, hey, Digital Foundry, they were saying the Switch 2 is comparable to the PS4. And I know there's a lot of people out there like, come on, man, it's obviously way better than the PS4. But you know what? They actually took a few steps back with this new kind of analysis, if you will. So I'm going to summarize it here in this video, let you guys know what's kind of going on with this brand new Cyberpunk 2077 footage and what it actually tells us. Again, there's about 30-ish minutes or so. Half of it is about 30 FPS footage. The other half, I think, was 60 FPS footage. And so again, Digital Foundry did a whole like kind of deep dive analysis of it and all that. And there's a lot of information that we're getting from this. And it's interesting what they're saying now about this new footage. So again, we'll dive into it. If you enjoy this kind of content, leave a like, subscribe for more. Let's go ahead and jump straight into this. So one of the first things they said is that the image quality is massively improved. So that's obviously compared from the PS4 to the Switch 2. So again, that's their quote. Image quality massively improved when comparing the PS4 to the Switch 2. Another quote from them regarding the PS4 to the Switch 2 is that there's no contest. That's what they said. There's no contest. They said Switch 2 is in another league in terms of sharpening up those details, clarifying noise, reducing noise across temporal shimmer. Again, end quote. So no contest with the PS4 and Switch 2. Switch 2 is clearly better. It looks way better. Way sharper image. Again, the last thing they said regarding against, kind of the PS4 is they said against PS4, it's looking great. It's looking really great. So then they went on to say, okay, well, how about compared to the Xbox Series S? How does that compare? And they were using the Series S in quality mode. And with that, they were saying, how the assets themselves seem to pretty much, be a match between the two versions, Switch 2 and of course Xbox Series S. But they noted that the image quality is much cleaner on the Switch 2. They said that there's less noise in the image quality on the Switch 2 compared to the Xbox Series S. They actually said that it's really impressive, kind of the comparison of the Switch 2 to the Series S. And this is something, by the way, you can go back and watch. I'll link it down in the description below. I made a video on how powerful is the Switch 2 actually, and I tried to kind of, pick apart as much information as we could, comparisons, different things like that. It's a lengthy video, but it kind of goes as deep as we can go into it, at least, pre-launch of the Switch 2, and I made an argument that I said, listen, this is better than the PS4, better than the PS4 Pro. It's comparable to the Series S in a lot of ways, from what we're seeing with Street Fighter 6 and then Cyberpunk 2077. Now, here is the thing. Digital Foundry said that there's a big benefit moving to DLSS on the Switch 2. And yet, at the same time, they did note the DLSS in motion. So, like, let's say you're driving really fast, going through some kind of like densely populated areas and stuff. Certain things like the fences and stuff, you can kind of see some aliasing and some artifacts and stuff like that. So the DLSS specifically, nothing to do with the Switch 2, but the DLSS specifically, what they said was basically struggling to fill the holes, if you will, which again is a DLSS issue, not a Nintendo Switch 2 issue specifically. But at the end of it all, they basically said that, comparing the Switch 2 to the Series S, the comparison is pretty comparable, is basically what they said. So it's actually, they were very impressed. And again, I think they kind of walked back maybe indirectly some of their previous comments, where they thought it was more on par with the PS4. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but that's kind of what I was getting from it. Maybe I understood wrong, but again, some of these things I watched the whole, like, I think it was like almost 20-minute segment on this section on Cyberpunk 2077, the new footage on Switch 2 and what they had to say. And I wrote down notes as I was kind of listening to them say that and all that to bring you guys kind of a concise version and whatnot. And again, this is kind of going to what I was saying before. Again, if you missed that previous video where I talked about how powerful is the Switch 2, check it out. I'll link it down in the description below. But what are your thoughts on all this information? Are you surprised? Are you, what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comment section below. It's really nice to hear. Obviously, no one's expecting this to be on par with the PS5. Obviously not. But they also noted that it's pretty impressive impressive, especially like, you know, going into handheld mode, it's going to be even more impressive because in handheld mode, it's like you're running off like 10 watts of power. So we'll see how that kind of plays out. But they did note, and this is something that, you know, we've seen on other platforms as well, like the Series S, there are some FPS dips, obviously, when there's kind of a lot going on, because CPU, you know, does struggle to kind of keep up with it. But it's not, from what I've seen in their footage, it's not massive. So it seems, you know, like a few FPS dips here and there, but it seems to be running pretty smooth and pretty good. So I mean, look, it's pretty exciting that the Switch 2 has this much power, and this is just scratching the surface. And also worth noting, we don't know, because it wasn't said, if this 30 minutes of footage that the you know, CD Projekt Red released, if it's final build or not. We don't know if it is or isn't. They didn't specify. So that's one thing to consider as well. It could possibly not even be a final build. We could get even more kind of power, more performance out of it by the time Cyberpunk 2077 launches on the Switch 2. And it'll be interesting again to see what other developers do, and, you know, especially with the first party stuff, also how they can utilize the Switch 2 as they really kind of unlock its full potential. And one thing that a lot of developers keep saying is that the Switch 2 is just so nice to work with. So yeah, it looks like a very bright future for this platform for the next, you know, so many years. So let me know your thoughts. Leave a like, subscribe for more if you're into you know, Nintendo content like this, news, gameplays, guides, walkthroughs, whatever, you name it, we got it. So keep it locked for more. Until the next one, game on. See you guys later. Thanks for watching.